The screaming started before anyone could stop it. Not the playful shrieks of children chasing waves or the delighted squeals from the roller coaster. Above, this was different. This was cruel. At the heart of Santa Monica Pier, where the Pacific Ocean crashes against weathered wood and the scent of cotton candy mingles with salt air, a young girl sat frozen in her wheelchair, while 3 teenagers circled her like wolves. "Move, cripple!" The tallest boy's voice cut through the carnival music, sharp and vicious. He kicked the wheelchair's footrest, jolting 15-year-old Emma Martinez so violently that her hands flew up to grip the armrests. Her knuckles went white. Behind her thick-framed glasses, tears pooled, but didn't fall. She'd learned long ago not to give bullies that satisfaction. Emma had cerebral palsy, a condition that made her muscles tight and uncooperative, confining her to a wheelchair since birth. But her mind was sharp, her spirit unbroken. And on this sunny Saturday afternoon, all she'd wanted was to feel normal, to smell the ocean, to watch the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose, to forget just for an hour about the stares and whispers that followed her everywhere. "I said move!" The boy kicked again, harder this time. His friends laughed, that hollow, performative laughter of cowards seeking approval. Tourists walked past, their eyes sliding away, their steps quickening. Nobody wanted to get involved. Nobody ever did. Emma's mother had gone to get them ice cream, leaving her daughter near the entrance for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes was all it took for cruelty to find its target. "What's wrong? Can't walk away?" A girl with a high ponytail sneered, pulling out her phone. "This is going to get so many likes." The third bully, a stocky kid in a Lakers jersey, reached for the wheelchair handles. "Let's see how fast this thing goes down the pier." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. Her voice, when it came, was small but steady. "Please, don't!" That's when the sound began. Low at first, like distant thunder rolling in from the sea. A rumble that grew and grew until it drowned out the carousel music, the arcade bells, the crying seagulls overhead. The wooden planks of the pier began to vibrate. Motorcycles, dozens of them. The bully's head snapped toward the entrance where a sea of chrome and leather was pouring onto the pier. Harleys, Triumphs, Indians, bikes of every make and model, ridden by men and women whose faces were weathered by wind and sun. They wore leather vests decorated with patches, bandanas, and the unmistakable insignia of various motorcycle clubs. These weren't the outlaw bikers of movie myths. These were veterans, nurses, teachers, firefighters, regular people who'd found family on 2 wheels. Leading the pack was a massive man named Marcus Bear Thompson, a former Marine with a salt and pepper beard and a scar running through his left eyebrow. He'd been riding with his club, the Pacific Guardians, when his girlfriend Sarah had texted him a single word: emergency. She'd witnessed the bullying from the Pier's souvenir shop where she worked and knew exactly who to call. Bear killed his engine. The silence that followed was deafening. He swung off his bike with surprising grace for a man his size and walked toward the scene, his boots heavy on the wooden planks. Behind him, 43 other bikers dismounted and followed. The bully's bravado evaporated like morning fog. The tall one's hand fell away from Emma's wheelchair. The girl's phone dropped to her side. The stocky kid in the Lakers jersey took an involuntary step backward. Bear stopped about 10 feet from Emma, his massive frame blocking out the sun. Then he did something unexpected. He knelt down, making himself smaller, less threatening. When he spoke, his voice was gentle, the voice of a father, which he was to 2 daughters not much older than Emma. "You all right, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Her tears finally spilled over, but they were different now. Relief, gratitude, the overwhelming emotion of being seen, being protected, being valued. "Good," Bear said, standing. He turned to the bullies, and his voice hardened into something that could cut steel. "You 3, names now." They stammered them out. Tyler, Madison, Josh. Their tough guy facades had crumbled completely. They were just scared kids who'd made terrible choices. "Here's what's going to happen," Bear continued, crossing his arms over his chest. Behind him, the wall of bikers stood silent and imposing. "You're going to apologize. A real apology. Then you're going to think long and hard about what kind of people you want to be. Because I'll tell you something, true strength isn't about picking on someone who can't fight back. True strength is standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. You think you're tough? This young lady is tougher than the three of you combined. She faces more challenges before breakfast than you'll face in your whole lives. And she does it with more grace and courage than you punks can imagine. The silence stretched. Finally, Tyler, the ringleader, looked at Emma. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Madison and Josh echoed him, their voices barely whispers. Bear nodded slowly. Now get out of here. And if I ever hear about you doing something like this again, we'll have a very different conversation. You understand? They understood. They scattered like startled birds disappearing into the crowd of tourists who'd gathered to watch the spectacle. Bear turned back to Emma and his entire demeanor softened in Marcus Butt. Folks call me Bear. This here is my riding, Club the Pacific Guardians. We're going to stick around for a bit, make sure you're okay. That sound all right? Emma found her voice. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. Hey, none of that, Bear said, his eyes crinkling with kindness. We look out for each other. That's what community means. A woman stepped forward from the group of bikers, Sarah, the one who'd sent the text. She had kind eyes and tattoos covering her arms in intricate patterns. Sweetheart, is your family here? Can we call someone for you? Before Emma could answer, a panicked voice cut through the crowd. Emma, Emma! Her mother, Maria Martinez, pushed through the onlookers, 2 melting ice cream cones forgotten in her hands. When she saw the bikers surrounding her daughter, her face went white. What's happening? Emma, are you... Mom, it's okay, Emma said quickly. These people, they helped me. Some kids were bothering me and they... Maria's expression shifted, from fear to understanding, to overwhelming gratitude in seconds. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at the wall of leather-clad strangers who'd protected her daughter. Thank you, she whispered, then louder. Thank you so much. I was only gone for 5 minutes. I never should have... Ma'am, you did nothing wrong, Bear said firmly. Your daughter is brave and smart. And those kids learned an important lesson today. But if it's all right with you, we'd like to make sure the rest of her day is a good one. What happened next became the stuff of Santa Monica legend. The Pacific Guardians didn't just guard Emma for the rest of the afternoon, they adopted her as an honorary member. They escorted her and her mother along the pier, their presence ensuring no one would dare bother them again. They won her stuffed animals at the ring toss. They bought her churros and lemonade. They took turns pushing her wheelchair so her mother could rest. They made her laugh with terrible jokes and stories from the road. When sunset came, painting the sky in those shades of amber and rose Emma had dreamed of seeing, Bear lifted her wheelchair, and all slightly elevated so she could see over the crowd to watch the sun sink into the Pacific. The other bikers formed a semicircle around them, facing the ocean, a wall of protection and brotherhood and humanity at its finest. As the last rays of sunlight flickered out, Emma looked around at these strangers who'd become friends, these tough-looking bikers with hearts of pure gold, and she understood something profound. Kindness is the truest form of strength, and sometimes angels wear leather and ride Harleys. The Pacific Guardians stayed until Emma and her mother were safely to their car. Before they left, Bear pressed something into Emma's hand, a patch from his vest with the club's emblem. Your family now, he said simply. That patch sits framed on Emma's bedroom wall today, a reminder that in a world that can be cruel and indifferent, there are still people who will roar to your defense, who will stand between you and harm, who will show up when you need them most. Sometimes heroism doesn't arrive in capes and superpowers. Sometimes it arrives on 2 wheels and 4 dozen motorcycles, with the thunder of engines and the fierce protective love of strangers who refuse to look away.